Leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. Too often, we mistake titles, authority, and power for leadership. But the truth is, great leadership has nothing to do with rank. It has everything to do with responsibility. The question is not, how do I get people to follow me? The real question is, how do I create an environment where people feel safe, valued, and inspired to give their best? When we look at the leaders who leave lasting impact, the ones we admire most, it is never because they demanded excellence. It is because they inspired it. They understood that people do not wake up motivated by targets or profits alone. They wake up motivated by trust, belonging, and purpose. Great leaders give people that sense of meaning, and in return, people rise higher than even they thought possible. Today, I want to share with you what it truly means to lead, not to manage, not to control, but to lead in a way that inspires excellence all around you. Because if you want to be a great leader, the first step is not asking others to change. The first step is deciding who you want to be. Leadership is often misunderstood in its very essence. Too many people assume that the higher they climb, the more leadership they automatically gain. They equate leadership with the authority to give orders, make decisions, and control outcomes. Yet, real leadership is not tied to a position or a title. It is tied to responsibility. A person may have the power to demand obedience, but that does not make them a leader. A leader is someone who chooses to take responsibility for the well-being of others. Someone who accepts the weight of accountability, not just for success, but for the people they are entrusted with. True leadership begins the moment we decide to step outside of ourselves and look after those around us. The greatest misconception is that leadership is about being served. The reality is the opposite. It is about serving. Think about the leaders who have inspired history, the mentors who changed your life, or even the people in your own community who left a mark on you. What set them apart was not how loudly they spoke or how much authority they had, but how deeply they cared. They understood that leadership is a choice, not a rank. It is the choice to put others before yourself, to take on their fears, their struggles, and their challenges as if they were your own. Responsibility means owning the difficult decisions, shielding others from unnecessary harm, and ensuring that the people you lead feel seen, valued, and protected. When leadership is seen as responsibility rather than rank, everything shifts. Instead of asking, "How do I get people to follow me?" the question becomes, "How do I take care of the people who have chosen to follow?" This change in mindset redefines what success looks like. Success is no longer about individual accolades or recognition, but about creating an environment where others can thrive. Leadership means asking, have I created safety so my team can take risks? Have I fostered trust so they can innovate without fear? Have I shown empathy so they know they are more than just a means to an end? When the answer is yes, people respond with loyalty, creativity, and commitment. That is the ripple effect of responsibility. It is easy to spot the difference between a leader driven by rank and one driven by responsibility. The one who clings to rank demands respect, but it is rarely earned. They may achieve compliance, but never genuine commitment. On the other hand, the leader who embraces responsibility earns respect without asking for it. Their influence grows naturally because people want to follow them, not because they have to, but because they choose to. The environment created by such leaders is one of safety, trust, and inspiration, where people willingly give their best because they know their leader is invested in their success as much as their own. Responsibility, a core of leadership, is not glamorous. It often means sacrifice, late nights, difficult conversations, and carrying burdens that others may never even see. But that is the cost of true leadership. It is not a privilege to be exploited. It is a duty to be honored. When we redefine leadership in this way, we begin to see that the best leaders are not those with the loudest voices, the most authority, or the highest rank. They are the ones who quietly and consistently put others first, who step up when things are hard, and who never forget that leadership is not about them. It is about those they lead. Would you like me to do the same kind of 600-word expansion for Keynote 2 as well, so it flows like a full speech series? Trust and safety are the foundations of any strong team, yet they are often the most overlooked responsibilities of leadership. Many people believe that performance is driven by pressure, targets, or competition, but in reality, sustainable excellence comes from an environment where people feel secure enough to take risks, share ideas, and admit mistakes without fear of judgment or punishment. Leadership is not about pushing people harder. It is about creating the conditions where they push themselves because they feel supported. When people know they are safe, they stop focusing on survival and start focusing on growth. A leader's first responsibility is to build that environment of trust. Without trust, there can be no genuine collaboration, only compliance. People may follow instructions, but they will hold back their true creativity, their best ideas, and their full potential. Trust is not built through authority. It is built through consistency, empathy, and integrity. It is in the small moments, keeping promises, listening without interruption, acknowledging effort even when results fall short. These actions may seem simple, but they send a powerful message that people matter, that they are valued not only for what they produce, but for who they are. Safety in leadership does not mean avoiding challenges or shielding people from every difficulty. It means giving them the confidence to face challenges, knowing that they won't be abandoned if they stumble. A culture of fear breeds silence, but a culture of safety breeds innovation. When people trust that their leader has their back, they stop worrying about protecting themselves and instead direct their energy toward solving problems and striving for excellence. They dare to think differently, take bold steps, and contribute ideas they might otherwise keep to themselves. That kind of openness is what drives progress. Creating trust and safety also requires vulnerability from the leader. It takes courage to admit when you don't have all the answers, to own up to mistakes, and to ask for help when needed. Yet, paradoxically, this vulnerability strengthens the bond between leader and team. People do not trust leaders who pretend to be perfect. They trust leaders who are real, approachable, and human. When a leader shows that it is okay to be imperfect, they give others permission to do the same, replacing fear with confidence and pretense with authenticity. The measure of trust in a team is not how people behave when things are going well, but how they respond when things go wrong. Do people come forward openly? Or do they hide mistakes out of fear? Do they collaborate under pressure? Or do they turn on one another to protect themselves? These reactions reveal the culture the leader has cultivated. Leaders who consistently prioritize safety see their teams come together in adversity because they know they are stronger as a whole than as individuals fighting to survive. Trust and safety also build loyalty. People rarely stay in organizations because of money alone. They stay because they feel a sense of belonging. They stay because they believe their leader genuinely cares about them. When people feel safe, they are more engaged, more committed, and more willing to go above and beyond. This kind of loyalty cannot be bought or demanded. It must be earned day by day, action by action. A leader who creates trust and safety is like the foundation of a strong building. You may not always see it, but it holds everything else up. Without it, no amount of strategy, goals, or motivation can stand for long. With it, even the greatest challenges can be faced with resilience and unity. Do you want me to now expand Keynote 3 in 600 words to continue building your full speech flow? People do not wake up every morning motivated by orders, rules, or instructions. They wake up motivated by purpose. Leaders who understand this truth know that their role is not to control people, but to give them something meaningful to believe in. A paycheck may bring people to work, but it will never make them stay late, go the extra mile, or pour their heart into a project. What keeps people committed is the sense that their work matters, that they are part of something bigger than themselves, and that their leader gives them clarity about why their efforts count. When people feel purpose, their energy, creativity, and resilience multiply in ways no amount of authority could ever command. The leaders who inspire people are those who take the time to articulate a vision that resonates deeply. They do not just say what needs to be done, they explain why it matters. They connect everyday responsibilities to long-term impact. A leader who says, "One need to finish this project by Friday," may get the work done. But a leader who says, "This project is going to help us make a real difference in the lives of others, and that's why finishing it by Friday is so important," taps into a different level of motivation. People are not machines responding to commands. They are human beings responding to meaning. Purpose-driven leadership also creates unity. When people share a sense of purpose, they move in the same direction with greater focus and commitment. It is no longer about one person's agenda or individual gain. It becomes about contributing to something shared. This collective purpose breaks down silos, reduces conflict, and fosters collaboration because people see themselves as part of a common mission rather than isolated workers following orders. Leaders who provide that clarity and connection create cultures where people feel proud to belong, and pride in belonging fuels excellence. Another critical piece of purpose is that it gives people resilience. When challenges arise, people who are only following orders will give up quickly because their motivation has no deeper root. But when people are driven by purpose, setbacks are seen as obstacles worth overcoming. They are more willing to adapt, innovate, and persist because the mission feels too important to abandon. Leaders who anchor their teams in purpose create endurance, and endurance is what sustains excellence over time. Providing purpose also requires listening. Leaders cannot impose meaning from the top down. They must also listen to what drives the individuals on their team. For some, it may be making a difference in the community. For others, it might be contributing to innovation, learning, or growth. Great leaders weave these individual motivations into the larger narrative of the team or organization. By doing so, they make every person feel included in the mission, showing that their contribution has unique value. That sense of being valued fuels commitment more powerfully than any demand could. When leaders focus only on giving orders, they get obedience. But when they focus on providing purpose, they get passion. Passion is contagious. It spreads throughout the team, lifting performance, morale, and creativity. People begin to hold themselves to higher standards, not because someone told them to, but because they care deeply about the outcome. This is the real power of leadership, not in forcing compliance, but in sparking belief. In the end, leadership that provides purpose leaves a lasting legacy. Orders are forgotten as soon as the task is done, but purpose lives on in the hearts and minds of people long after they move on. Leaders who inspire through purpose create not just followers, but leaders in their own right. Individuals who carry forward the values, passion, and drive instilled in them. That is how great leadership multiplies, and that is how excellence becomes the natural result of people believing in something greater than themselves. Do you want me to now expand Keynote E5 into 600 words so it continues to build your full keynote speech? Inspiration is the heartbeat of true leadership. Authority can make people obey, but it can never make them commit with their whole heart. Great leaders understand that excellence is not something you can demand. It is something you inspired. When people are inspired, they do not simply do their jobs. They pour themselves into their work, fueled by a sense of purpose that goes beyond task lists or performance metrics. Inspiration taps into the human desire to contribute to something bigger than ourselves, and when leaders ignite that desire, the results are extraordinary. The danger of authority-driven leadership is that it often produces short-term compliance but long-term disengagement. When people are forced or pressured to perform, They may do just enough to avoid consequences, but they rarely give their best. They protect themselves instead of pursuing possibilities. Inspiration, on the other hand, flips this dynamic. Instead of asking, "What do I have to do?" inspired people ask, "What more can I give?" This shift transforms average teams into exceptional ones because excellence becomes an internal drive, not an external demand. The most inspiring leaders do not focus on telling people what to do, they focus on showing people why it matters. They paint a picture of the future worth striving for. They articulate values that resonate deeply. They connect everyday tasks to a larger mission. When people understand the meaning behind their efforts, their work is no longer just work. It becomes a contribution to something meaningful. A leader's words can spark inspiration, but it is their actions that sustain it. Consistency between what leaders say and what they do is what convinces people to believe. Inspiration also requires empathy. Leaders who take the time to know their people, to understand what motivates them personally, can spark a deeper level of commitment. Some are inspired by growth, others by impact, others by belonging. When leaders connect with these individual drivers, they create a culture where everyone feels included in the mission. That culture naturally breeds excellence because people feel seen, valued, and understood. No amount of authority can generate that kind of passion. Another critical part of inspiring excellence is trust. People will not follow a vision if they do not trust the person casting it. Inspiration is fragile if it comes from speeches alone. It must be rooted in authenticity. Leaders who are genuine in their belief, who show vulnerability, and who consistently prioritize people over ego, become the kind of leaders others want to emulate. Inspiration spreads not through control, but through example. A leader who embodies excellence inspires others to rise to that same level without ever needing to demand it. There is also an element of courage in inspiration. It takes courage to believe in people before they believe in themselves. It takes courage to set a high standard and to trust that, with the right support, people can reach it. Great leaders do not lower expectations to make things easier. They raise people's belief in their ability to meet those expectations. Inspiration is often the voice that says, "I see more in you than you see in yourself." That kind of leadership lights a fire in people that no external pressure could ever achieve. Excellence born from inspiration lasts because it is chosen, not forced. People remember how leaders made them feel, not the orders they gave. Leaders who inspire create a legacy that extends far beyond their immediate influence because they instill values, passion, and belief in the people they touch. When inspiration becomes the engine of leadership, authority becomes unnecessary and excellence becomes inevitable. Do you want me to continue with Keynote 4 expanded to 600 words so your full speech develops seamlessly? The true measure of leadership is not found in personal achievements, but in the growth of the people around you. Titles, recognition, and accomplishments may be impressive on the surface, but they fade with time. What endures is the impact you have on others, the skills you helped them develop, the confidence you instilled, and the opportunities you created for them to thrive. Leadership is not about being the star of the show, it is about empowering others to shine. A leader's legacy is written in the success stories of their people, not in the awards on their wall. When leaders focus only on their own success, they limit what is possible. Their attention becomes fixed on personal gain or short-term results, and the people around them become tools rather than partners. This kind of leadership may deliver quick wins, but it fails to build loyalty, resilience, or sustainable growth. By contrast, leaders who measure their success by the progress of others unlock potential that goes far beyond what they could ever achieve alone. They understand that leadership is about multiplying capacity, not hoarding it. The more they invest in their people, the stronger the entire team becomes. The best leaders see potential in others even before it is visible. They look past weaknesses and mistakes to identify the seeds of strength waiting to be nurtured. They encourage people to step into challenges, even when they are unsure of themselves, because they know that growth comes not from comfort, but from stretch. A leader's role is not to shield people from difficulty, but to give them the support and confidence to rise through it. In doing so, they create individuals who are not only more skilled, but more resilient and self-assured. Growth-focused leadership also requires humility. It means shifting the spotlight away from yourself and allowing others to take credit. It means celebrating the accomplishments of your team more than your own. Leaders who operate this way build loyalty and trust because people can feel when someone genuinely wants them to succeed. This kind of humility transforms the relationship between leader and team from transactional to transformational. Instead of working for the leader, people begin to work with the leader, united by a shared purpose and mutual respect. An important part of fostering growth is creating opportunities for learning. Leaders cannot expect people to grow if they are never given the chance to explore, to try, and even to fail. Great leaders design environments where experimentation is encouraged, mistakes are seen as lessons, and continuous improvement is celebrated. Growth is rarely linear. It comes with setbacks and missteps. But a leader who views those as necessary parts of the journey helps people develop the courage to keep going. The result is not just better performance, but stronger character. Measuring leadership by the growth of others also has a multiplying effect. The people who are empowered to grow under one leader often become leaders themselves, passing on the same principles and values to others. This creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond the original team or organization. True leadership, therefore, is not about how high one individual can climb, but how many others they can lift along the way. This multiplier effect is what separates those who simply manage from those who genuinely lead. At the heart of it, leadership is an act of stewardship. It is about leaving people better than you found them, about helping them see in themselves what they could not see before. When a leader measures their success by the growth of others, they leave behind something lasting and meaningful. They create not just results, but transformation. They build not just teams, but legacies. And in the process, they prove that the greatest leaders are remembered not for what they accomplished alone, but for how they helped others become more than they ever imagined they could be. Do you want me to go ahead and expand keynotes into 600 words so your entire speech is fully built out? Every great leader begins with a choice, the choice of who they want to be. Leadership is not granted by position, nor is it guaranteed by experience. It is defined by the intentional decision to lead with character, integrity, and vision. Too often, people assume that leadership is about changing others, shaping them, controlling them, or driving them toward a goal. But the truth is, leadership starts with the leader. Before you can inspire others, you must first decide the kind of leader you want to become. That decision shapes every action, every word, and every interaction that follows. When leaders fail to make this choice consciously, they end up leading by default, influenced by ego, pressure, or external expectations. This often leads to inconsistency and mistrust because their actions are not anchored in clear values. By contrast, leaders who deliberately define who they are, who they choose to be, become steady, reliable, and authentic. People are drawn to that kind of clarity. They want to follow someone whose actions align with their words, someone who stands firm in their principles, no matter the circumstances. That consistency creates confidence, and confidence inspires trust. Choosing who you want to be as a leader also means committing to growth. Leadership is not a static identity. It is an ongoing process of becoming. A leader cannot expect their people to grow if they are not willing to grow themselves. This requires humility, the willingness to admit mistakes, and the courage to learn. Leaders who see themselves as finished products stagnate, while leaders who remain open to growth continually deepen their ability to inspire and influence others. This personal evolution sets the tone for the entire team, showing that growth is not just encouraged. It is expected of everyone, starting with the leader. Another dimension of this choice is the decision to lead with service rather than self-interest. A leader who chooses to prioritize others demonstrates that leadership is about giving, not taking. It is about lifting others, not elevating oneself. This selflessness is not weakness, it is strength. It requires the discipline to put the needs of the team ahead of personal recognition and the wisdom to understand that long-term impact matters more than short-term glory. Leaders who consistently make this choice cultivate loyalty and respect because people instinctively trust those who act with sincerity and care. Deciding who you want to be as a leader also means choosing courage over comfort. Leadership often requires making difficult decisions, standing up for what is right, and guiding people through uncertainty. It is easy to make choices that please others in the moment, but great leaders choose the harder path, the one that aligns with their values and vision. They recognize that courage is contagious. When a leader demonstrates it, others find the strength to be courageous as well. In this way, the leader's character becomes a catalyst for collective bravery and resilience. Perhaps the most powerful part of choosing who you want to be is that it creates a ripple effect. People do not follow titles, they follow examples. They watch closely not only what leaders say, but how they behave when no one is watching. Every act of integrity, empathy, and responsibility reinforces the leader's choice of identity. Over time, this consistency builds a culture where values are not just spoken but lived. The leader's decision about who they want to be becomes the standard for how others choose to show up as well. Leadership is not about waiting until you have the perfect conditions, the right title, or the biggest platform. It begins now, in the small daily choices of how you show up, how you treat others, and how you respond to challenges. By deciding who you want to be, you take control of the only part of leadership you can truly own, yourself. And when you do that with intention, authenticity, and courage, you naturally inspire others to rise with you. Would you like me to now combine all 6 expanded keynotes into one continuous, polished keynote speech, so it flows like a single Simon Sinek style talk?